human mechanic, left alone on alien station. What he built shocked everyone. Jaren wiped the sweat from his brow and glanced around the massive control room of the alien station. He had been left alone after a minor evacuation. A small warning had gone off in one section of the station, and most of the crew, humans and aliens alike, had hurried away, leaving him behind. At first, panic tried to creep in, but Jaren pushed it aside. This wasn't his first time being alone in a strange situation. The station itself was breathtaking. Towering metal pillars twisted toward the ceiling like giant silver trees. Lights pulsed softly along the walls, changing color as they followed energy flows. Strange machines hummed in the distance, their purpose unclear to Jaren at first glance. He didn't understand all the alien technology, but he had learned quickly. Machines, no matter where they came from, followed rules. Energy flowed. Motion had patterns. And humans could find solutions even when the rules seemed too complex. Jaren knelt down beside a console and examined a cluster of energy conduits. The aliens had left the systems running, trusting the automated monitors to keep everything stable. But he noticed something they hadn't. A small node in the power grid flickered slightly out of rhythm with the rest. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but Jaren's eyes caught it. His fingers danced over the panel, gently touching the alien controls, reading the symbols, pressing the buttons in ways the aliens might never imagine. Above him, a pair of hovering observation drones glided silently, their sensors tracking every movement. The aliens were watching. They always watched humans with curiosity, and often with skepticism. To them, humans were fragile, primitive creatures. They lacked the precise control and logic that their species prized. But Jaren had learned long ago that humans didn't need perfection. They had intuition, creativity, problem-solving instincts that could surprise even the most advanced minds. He smiled to himself as he adjusted a lever, and a faint hum changed pitch. The energy node steadied. Perfect. The station didn't shake. Systems were not just stable, they were smoother. It was a small thing, but to Jaren, it felt like victory. He stood up and stretched, letting his eyes wander over the massive room. The station was enormous, even by alien standards. Jaren estimated it had hundreds of kilometers of hallways, chambers, and machinery. He had worked on similar human ships before, but this was on another level. Alien technology was elegant, but often too rigid. Humans were flexible. Jaren liked to think of himself as a bridge. He could combine human flexibility with alien precision. As he walked down a long corridor, he noticed small lights flickering in a section of the ceiling. A cooling vent seemed to vibrate irregularly. Jaren knelt and examined it. The vibrations weren't dangerous, but if left unchecked, they could throw off nearby systems. He made a mental note to fix it, but first he needed to see what other sections of the station might be unstable. He moved with quiet confidence, taking note of each system, each humming machine, each light. The aliens had designed the station for efficiency, but Jaren saw inefficiencies, tiny things. Misaligned energy flows, sensors that could be better calibrated, conduits that could share energy more evenly. A human eye might see chaos, but to Jaren, it was a puzzle. He paused before a massive chamber where a cluster of alien engineers had been working before the evacuation. Tools and parts were scattered across the floor, left in a hurry. Jaren knelt and picked up a small device. He turned it over in his hands, noticing the intricate design. The aliens had created it with perfection in mind, but the human mind loved imperfection. It meant there was room to improve, to adapt, to innovate. He smiled. Jaren spent the next hours moving through the station, examining, testing, adjusting. Sometimes he paused to write small notes in his notebook, sketches of machines, ideas for small improvements. Other times he hummed a soft tune, a habit he'd picked up from his grandfather. The tune helped him focus. He didn't know if the aliens could hear it through the drones, but he didn't care. Meanwhile, the aliens watched from their observation pods. They whispered among themselves in a language Jaren couldn't understand. Their expectations were low. A human alone? The station would collapse. Systems would fail. But as they observed, they noticed something strange. The energy flows were not only stable, they were improving. Small, almost invisible changes made the station hum with efficiency. One alien engineer tilted its head, signaling to another, "This human, he is different." They had never seen anything like it. Their own engineers followed precise steps, repeated protocols, and relied on calculations. Humans adapted. Jaren did not have the fastest processors or the strongest body, but he had intuition. He could feel the station's rhythm and adjust without needing to calculate everything. It was unpredictable. It was dangerous, but in a good way. By evening, Jaren had completed a small set of modifications. He had rerouted energy conduits, smoothed out sensor readings, and adjusted machinery that had been vibrating for days. He stepped back and let the station run on its own. Lights glowed softly, and the hum of energy was steady and strong. A small smile crossed his face. "You'd be surprised what humans can do when you leave them alone," he muttered to himself. The drones hovered closer, scanning his work. For the first time, the aliens weren't whispering. They were silent, stunned. One of their leaders floated into view, a tall figure with shimmering silver skin. Its multiple eyes studied Jaren carefully. "You improved efficiency," it said, its voice melodic but cautious. "Why?" Jaren shrugged. "Because it needed it. Because I could. Because I like to fix things." The alien tilted its head, trying to understand. "But our systems are perfect." "Your improvisations are unnecessary." "Perfect?" Jaren asked softly, looking around. "Nothing's perfect. You can make it smooth, you can make it fast, but perfection comes from trying, failing, and trying again. You can't get that from blueprints alone." The alien's eyes narrowed. It didn't know what to say. It had never met a creature who could improve what was already perfect. Jaren, however, didn't wait for a response. He moved to the next section, inspecting more machinery. Hours passed. Jaren worked calmly, steadily, with a patience the aliens could not understand. He tinkered with small devices, made adjustments that were invisible unless you were looking closely, and left behind subtle improvements. The station felt alive in a new way, humming with energy that wasn't just calculated, it was intuitive. Finally, Jaren paused near the central hub. He took out his notebook and scribbled a quick note. "Machines like guidance, but people like kindness. Treat them well." He laughed quietly. Even here, on an alien station, the thought felt right. Outside, the observation pods floated silently. The aliens were no longer whispering. They were watching in awe. A human, alone, had not only survived, but improved their station. They didn't yet understand how or why. Jaren, however, didn't care about their understanding. He cared about the work, about fixing problems, about making things better. That was all humans needed. That was all he needed. As the artificial night lights flickered on inside the station, Jaren settled near a console and leaned back. Tomorrow, he would continue. There was more to fix, more to improve, more to understand. He felt calm, confident, and strangely at home. And somewhere in the observation pods, the aliens began to realize that humans were not the fragile creatures they had assumed. They were something else entirely. Creative, unpredictable, unstoppable in their own quiet way. Jaren woke to the gentle hum of the alien station, sunlight streaming in through the large observation windows that faced a distant blue star. He yawned, stretched, and immediately walked to the central hub. The first day alone had been productive, but today he had bigger plans. The station was alive with energy, almost as if it understood that someone was finally paying attention to it. He moved from console to console, examining the systems he had improved yesterday. Everything was steady. The small adjustments he had made to the energy conduits and sensor arrays were holding perfectly. Jaren felt a small thrill. Even a tiny human could make a difference here. Pulling out his toolkit, he began gathering spare parts from scattered maintenance shelves. The station's storage bays were filled with alien components, some sleek, some oddly shaped, most of them unfamiliar. Jaren picked each piece up, studying its purpose, imagining what it could do if connected differently. The first thing he built was a small monitoring device. It looked almost like a cube with blinking lights and tiny gears. But inside, it functioned as a smart sensor. Unlike the alien sensors, which only collected data, Jaren's device could analyze, adjust, and communicate with nearby systems automatically. He placed it near a section of the energy network that still flickered intermittently. "Let's see how you handle yourself," he muttered, tapping it lightly. The device whirred, blinked, and then began rerouting energy flows, smoothing the flicker until it disappeared entirely. Jaren smiled. He had always loved machines that could learn. That was something humans did naturally: take information, adapt, and improve. Most alien technology followed strict protocols, unable to respond outside their programming. But humans could adapt. Humans could teach machines to adapt. As he worked, Jaren noticed the hovering observation drones. The aliens were watching, silently, as if afraid to interrupt. He waved at one, grinning. It hovered closer, scanning him. Jaren laughed softly. He could feel their curiosity, their skepticism, and their astonishment all at once. They didn't understand this kind of thinking. They had never built a machine that could learn, not like a human. The next project took him to a long corridor filled with maintenance panels. The corridor's lights were dim, some flickering. Jaren examined the wiring, noting that the alien engineers had designed it efficiently but rigidly. A minor change could allow energy to flow evenly to each panel, improving light stability and reducing strain on the system. Using parts from a storage bay, Jaren built a small adaptive relay, a device that could adjust energy flow on its own, based on real-time needs. He connected it to the corridor system and watched. The lights stabilized instantly, brighter and smoother than before. He tapped the device. "Not bad, huh?" the alien drones observed silently. One of their engineers transmitted a message to the others. "He adjusts. Without protocol, without approval."
"How?" Jaren shrugged. He didn't need approval.
He just fixed what needed fixing. That was human nature. Adaptation. Problem solving. Creating solutions from nothing but observation and instinct. Hours passed. Jaren built more devices. Small, simple, yet elegant in their functionality. One was a tiny robotic arm that could repair minor malfunctions on its own, following the patterns Jaren programmed through gestures and demonstrations. Another was a sensor that could detect minute energy fluctuations and automatically adjust the station's systems for efficiency. Every time he finished a device, he tested it immediately. Every time, the results were better than expected. The station seemed to hum with approval. Machines adjusted, systems stabilized, and small errors vanished without any alien interference. The aliens watched in disbelief. In their history, no single being, alien or otherwise, had ever improved the station in such a short time. Their engineers worked in teams, following strict sequences of steps. One mistake could cause a system-wide failure. Yet here was a human, alone, turning chaos into harmony, not with brute force or calculations, but with intuition and observation. Jaren moved to the station's docking bay next. The airlock sensors occasionally misread approaching objects, triggering false alarms. He studied the patterns, noting a subtle resonance in the energy fields that confused the sensors. Pulling out his notebook, he sketched a simple design, connecting alien sensors with a human-style logic circuit he had improvised. By mid-afternoon, the docking bay was flawless. Every sensor read correctly. Energy fields balanced themselves automatically. Jaren tapped his notebook, satisfied. "All in a day's work," he said, smiling. But he didn't stop. He began to work on something more ambitious. A small robotic assistant. Using alien parts in his own designs, he built a humanoid-like device, no taller than a human child. Its body was sleek, metallic, with sensors for eyes and small manipulators for hands. But unlike the aliens' machines, this robot could learn. Jaren guided its first steps, demonstrating simple tasks, moving objects, adjusting levers, reading energy flows. The robot observed carefully, mimicking his movements perfectly. When the robot completed its first task on its own, Jaren clapped his hands. "Good job, buddy." The robot whirred happily, lights blinking in patterns that resembled laughter. Jaren chuckled. Teaching machines. That was humanity at its best. Creating lifelike helpers from nothing, giving them intuition, guidance, and purpose. By evening, the aliens' communication network was buzzing with messages. Engineers, leaders, and observers all tried to understand what was happening. Their protocols had failed to predict the humans' actions. Their systems were performing better under his modifications than under years of alien engineering. One alien leader approached the observation window near Jaren's workshop. Its silver eyes scanned the human quietly. "We underestimated them," it said to another. "A single human improving the station in hours. How is this possible?" Jaren, unaware of the discussion, continued his work. He moved to a section of the station where minor vibrations in a structural support had gone unnoticed. Pulling out his tools, he attached a tiny stabilizer, a device that would balance oscillations automatically. He tested it by tapping the wall. The vibrations disappeared instantly. He laughed softly. "Machines like guidance, but people like intuition. That's how it works." The aliens watched in amazement. They could understand his results, but not his methods. There was no algorithm, no rigid procedure, just observation, creativity, and the human ability to think differently. By nightfall, Jaren had completed several small yet significant improvements. The station's systems were smoother, more efficient, and more adaptable than ever before. Machines that had required constant monitoring now operated on their own, learning from Jaren's modifications. The little robot assistant worked tirelessly, moving parts and adjusting devices, learning every step as a human would teach a student. Jaren leaned back, exhausted but satisfied. He glanced at the observation drones hovering silently nearby. "Not bad for one human, huh?" he whispered. The drones recorded everything, their alien operators silent but attentive. In the quiet of the station, something remarkable happened. A section of the energy grid pulsed in harmony with Jaren's own heartbeat, almost as if the station itself was recognizing him. It was subtle, but Jaren felt it, a rhythm of life in a place built by logic, now guided by human intuition. He took out his notebook and scribbled a simple note. Even machines respond to care. Even perfection improves with a little patience. He smiled and placed the notebook near the central hub, a small message for anyone who might find it later. The aliens didn't yet understand the full implications of what they had witnessed. They saw results, yes, but not the quiet, persistent brilliance of the human mind. Jaren wasn't powerful, fast, or extraordinary by alien standards, but he was creative, persistent, and adaptive. Those were qualities no machine, no protocol could match. As Jaren settled near the central console for rest, he thought about tomorrow. There were more improvements to make, more systems to understand, more machines to teach. He didn't know the aliens would eventually be shocked by what he built, but he did know one thing. Humans were capable of remarkable things when left alone, given tools and guided by intuition. Outside, the observation drones recorded every movement, transmitting the data to the alien leaders. Quiet whispers turned to stunned silence. The aliens had begun to see that humans were not fragile, primitive, or inferior. A single mechanic, left alone, had changed the station in ways they could not yet comprehend. Jaren lay back, looking at the softly glowing lights of the station. Machines hummed, sensors blinked, and his little robot assistant whirred in contentment beside him. The station, vast and alien, had become something new, a little better, a little smarter, a little more alive. All because of one human mechanic who had been left alone and given the freedom to create. The station had grown quieter in the artificial night, yet inside energy pulsed with a new rhythm. Jaren moved through the corridors, checking his modifications one last time before resting. The little robot assistant followed, whirring softly, picking up discarded tools and placing them neatly in storage. He paused near the central hub and looked at the energy flows across the station. Everything hummed in harmony, thanks to his devices and adjustments. But then he noticed something odd. A section of the outer energy grid was fluctuating, far beyond what his devices could automatically correct. The anomaly was small at first, barely noticeable, but it grew steadily. Jaren frowned. This part of the station handled the docking bays, life support regulation, and auxiliary energy flows. If it failed, multiple systems could go offline simultaneously. He knelt and examined the conduits. The energy reading showed a rare cosmic effect, something the aliens rarely experienced. Their engineers had programmed the systems to withstand normal fluctuations, but this was unusual. Jaren sighed, already thinking of a solution. He didn't panic. Humans didn't panic. Instead, they observed, learned, and created. And creating, that was Jaren's specialty. He grabbed his toolkit and a few spare components. Then he pulled out a panel from the wall to give himself more access. The alien designs were elegant but rigid. Jaren preferred flexibility. He needed something that could adapt instantly, responding to fluctuations without waiting for a protocol to complete. He sketched a design in his notebook. Simple but effective. A modular energy bridge that could reroute energy flows dynamically. It would link multiple conduits, balancing energy automatically and adapting to any unexpected changes. In human terms, it was improvisation. In alien terms, it was probably madness. The little robot hovered nearby, watching him attach wires and gears, blinking in anticipation. Jaren smiled at it. "Don't worry, we'll get this done together." Hours passed. The modular bridge took shape, a combination of alien conduits, human circuits, and Jaren's intuitive design. Each connection was carefully tested. The robot assisted, moving components, holding tools, even checking connections with tiny mechanical fingers. When the bridge was complete, Jaren paused. The station was humming steadily, but the anomaly was still present, growing slowly. He activated his device, and the modular bridge came alive. Lights pulsed as energy began rerouting through the new network. The system adjusted itself automatically, balancing flows across multiple conduits simultaneously. At first, nothing seemed to change. Then, slowly, the fluctuations decreased. The energy grid stabilized. The docking bays operated smoothly. Life support systems hummed at peak efficiency, and auxiliary energy flows became steadier than ever before. Jaren stepped back, breathing heavily but smiling. The bridge worked. It had not only corrected the anomaly, it had improved the station's efficiency beyond its original design. And then came the moment he had been waiting for. The alien engineers arrived. The observation drones buzzed nervously, transmitting data in real time. The silver-skinned leader floated into the hub, its multiple eyes wide as it scanned the systems. "You," it said, voice careful, measured. "This is beyond our design." "How?" Jaren shrugged, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I observed, I built. I tested." Simple as that. The alien engineer tilted its head, clearly struggling to comprehend. "But one human, alone. You improved our station?" "Yes," Jaren said softly. "One human can do a lot if you leave him to think." The aliens moved closer, examining the modular bridge. Their eyes flicked over every connection, every wire, every junction. It was elegant in its simplicity. It worked seamlessly with the alien systems, yet it carried a kind of human creativity the aliens had never seen before. One of the engineers asked, almost hesitantly, Did you plan this before? Or Jaren shook his head. "No plan. I just saw the problem and thought about it." "Then I built it. Humans don't always follow plans. We improvise. We adapt. We try." The aliens didn't fully understand, but they could see the results. The station was more efficient, smoother, more balanced than it had ever been. Systems adjusted themselves automatically. Machines learned from small changes. Even the robot assistant moved with purpose, anticipating the next step. The leader's many eyes focused on Jaren. "You think differently. We cannot predict your methods, yet the results are undeniable."
Jaren smiled.
That's humans. For a long moment there was silence. The station hummed softly, almost in agreement. Jaren's eyes wandered around the hub. He noticed tiny improvements he hadn't even intended. Energy flows were more balanced. Minor vibrations in machinery had stopped, and lights pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost alive. Your intuition is remarkable, the alien said finally. You have exceeded expectations, alone, and without guidance. Jaren chuckled softly. That's the thing about humans. We don't need guidance. We learn. We try. And we build. The aliens seemed stunned. They had never encountered a being who could improve their systems without rigid calculations or pre-programmed instructions. Jaren had done it instinctively, creatively, calmly. The little robot assistant beeped happily, moving to inspect another panel. Jaren patted it on the shoulder. Good job, buddy. You learned well.
The alien's leader floated closer, examining the robot. It
Learns from you?
Yes, Jaren said simply.
Just like humans learn from each other. The aliens were silent. It was a new concept for them. Teaching, improvisation, intuition. They had machines, yes, but machines that strictly followed rules. Jaren's robot adapted, learned, and even improved on its own. One of the younger alien engineers whispered to another, "This is extraordinary. One human, he can teach machines better than our entire teams." "Yes," the other replied, "and he does it alone." Jaren leaned back against a console, watching the energy flows stabilize. "You know," he said quietly, "it's not about being better than anyone. It's about trying to make things work. That's what humans do. We try." The aliens watched him, beginning to understand. This was more than skill. It was a human trait. Curiosity, patience, creativity, and persistence combined. One human alone had improved a station designed by centuries of alien engineering. And then, quietly, the alien leader nodded. We underestimated humans. We did not see their true capability. Jaren smiled. Most species don't. The aliens began inspecting the modular bridge, the robot assistant, and Jaren's small devices. They recorded everything, studied every detail, and even attempted to replicate some of the modifications. But it was different. Human creativity could not be copied, only inspired. Hours passed as Jaren continued minor adjustments, testing small improvements, showing the robot new tasks. Each time the aliens watched, learning, not just from the machines, but from the humans' method of thinking. Finally, Jaren paused and looked around the central hub. The station had never been so alive. Every system was operating perfectly. The robot assistant moved through corridors, balancing energy flows, adjusting lights, and helping machinery self-correct. The station wasn't just functional. It felt harmonious, responsive, almost grateful. The aliens floated silently, observing the transformation. They realized something profound. Humans were not just physically weak or primitive. They were innovators, improvisers, creators. And even when left alone, they could build, improve, and inspire life in machines and systems alike. One of the alien engineers whispered to the leader almost reverently, "One human alone improved the station more than we have in centuries." The leader's eyes scanned Jaren. "We must reconsider our understanding. Humans are remarkable." Jaren, unaware of the full discussion, leaned back, exhausted but content. He had solved the anomaly, improved efficiency, and even taught a machine to learn like a human. He looked at the blinking lights of the station, the smoothly flowing energy, and the little robot assistant moving diligently at his side. "Not bad for one human," he whispered. And somewhere beyond the observation pods, the aliens began to realize a truth they could not ignore. Humans were something extraordinary, even in their smallest acts of creativity and patience. The station hummed softly, a perfect harmony of alien engineering and human intuition. It was alive in a new way, and Jaren had shown that one human, alone, could change not just machines, but minds. The station glowed softly as artificial day replaced night. Energy flows hummed in perfect harmony, lights pulsed steadily, and even the tiniest mechanical parts moved as if alive. Jaren walked through the corridors, a quiet smile on his face. His little robot assistant followed closely, whirring softly as it tidied and checked the systems. It had been days since he had first noticed the anomaly in the outer energy grid. Days filled with adjustments, tinkering, and innovation. The station had transformed under his hands. Machines worked more smoothly, sensors adapted automatically, and systems that had once required constant attention now adjusted themselves seamlessly. Jaren paused near the central hub and looked around. The space that had once seemed intimidating now felt familiar. The hum of energy had a rhythm he could almost dance to. The little robot assistant moved in perfect harmony with the station, balancing energy flows, adjusting lights, and even helping maintain the modular bridge Jaren had built. He chuckled quietly. "You've learned a lot, buddy. I think you're ready to manage on your own." The robot beeped happily, lights blinking in acknowledgement. Jaren patted its head and turned toward the observation window. Outside, the alien engineers and their leader floated in a silent group watching him. Their eyes, so many, so observant, focused on Jaren with a mixture of curiosity, respect, and awe. The leader finally spoke. Its voice was calm, measured, and thoughtful. "Human, your work, it is remarkable." Jaren shrugged, smiling. "I just fixed what needed fixing." The alien leader tilted its head, clearly struggling to find the right words. "It is more than fixing. You improved our station. Alone. And your methods, they are unlike anything we have seen. You teach machines. You create improvements without plans. You think differently." Jaren smiled softly. "That's humans. We observe, we try, and we build. That's all." The aliens exchanged quiet signals among themselves. They had come to the station expecting a weak, primitive human, perhaps capable of minor repairs at best. Instead, they had witnessed a single human mechanic transform the station, teach a machine to learn, and even solve a problem that had baffled their own engineers. One of the younger engineers floated forward.
Leader, this human.
He does not follow our logic. Yet, the results are better than anything we have done in decades. Yes, the leader said slowly. His work is not only functional, it improves. It adapts. It learns. Alone. One human has done more than our entire teams. We must reconsider our understanding of humanity.
Jaren didn't fully understand their discussion.
He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was doing what humans always did: solve problems, learn from mistakes, create solutions, and improve the world around them. Still, he felt a strange warmth at the recognition. The aliens were not just observing his work, they were beginning to respect it. And respect was rare among this species. He walked toward the docking bay where his last modifications were holding steady. The energy fields were balanced perfectly. Sensors worked flawlessly. Machines moved seamlessly, guided by the small human-invented algorithms. Jaren knelt and adjusted a tiny conduit, his hands moving quickly but gently. He tested the flow. Perfect. Then he stood and looked around, satisfied. The station was not only functional, it was alive, intuitive, adaptive, and responsive. All because of observation, care, and human ingenuity. The little robot assistant moved to his side, holding a small device he had been working on. It had been designed to manage minor malfunctions on its own. Jaren smiled. "You've done well. I think it's time you take over the station when I leave." The robot beeped happily, lights blinking like laughter. Jaren chuckled. He had never imagined building something so human-like in behavior, yet so integrated with alien systems. Outside, the aliens observed silently. Their leader turned to the group, voice low and reverent. We underestimated humans. They are not fragile. They are not primitive. They think, create, and adapt. One human alone has changed the station. Perhaps they can change more than machines. Perhaps they can change our understanding of life itself. Jaren, unaware of the full discussion, continued his final rounds. He made small adjustments here, minor calibrations there, and left tiny notes in his human handwriting on some devices. Machines like guidance, but people like patience. Observe, adapt, create. Humans always try. By the time he reached the central hub, the aliens had made a decision. The leader floated to the observation window and addressed him directly. Human, your time here is ending soon. Before you leave, know this. Your work, do you strive, will not be forgotten. Your methods will not be ignored. You have inspired us. Jaren looked at them, tilting his head.
Inspired? Ha 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 ha, just fixed what needed fixing. The alien leader's eyes shimmered. No.
You have shown that creativity, intuition, and persistence can surpass our rigid logic. You have taught us a lesson. One human, alone, can do more than we imagined. Jaren smiled quietly, feeling a quiet pride. Humans didn't need recognition to do remarkable things. They simply tried, learned, and built. But it felt good to know that even the most advanced aliens had noticed. As preparations began for his departure, Jaren walked through the station one last time. He looked at the corridors, the humming machines, the blinking sensors, and the little robot assistant that moved steadily at his side. He could feel the energy of the station pulsing in perfect harmony with the improvements he had made. It was not his station. It belonged to the aliens. Yet somehow, it felt alive in a way it had never been before. Machines responded, systems adapted. Even the tiniest errors corrected themselves automatically. Jaren had left more than modifications. He had left a new way of thinking embedded in the station itself. The aliens gathered at the observation window to watch him leave. Their leader spoke once more, voice calm but heavy with meaning. Human, your methods, your mind, your persistence are extraordinary. We will study them. We will learn. Perhaps humans back are not only capable of survival, but of changing the world around them wherever they go. Jaren nodded politely. That's humans. We try. That's all. The docking shuttle arrived. Jaren climbed inside, the little robot assistant watching from the floor of the hub, waiting for him to leave. He pressed a few buttons, checked the systems, and the shuttle lifted slowly, gliding toward the open space outside the station. From the observation pods, the aliens remained silent, watching as the shuttle disappeared into the distance. Their leader finally spoke, voice almost reverent. One human alone has changed our perception. We underestimated them. We will not forget this. Jaren looked out the shuttle window, seeing the alien station shrink behind him. He felt a quiet satisfaction. The station was safe, efficient, alive in a new way, and the aliens had learned something about humans that would stay with them forever. In the quiet of the shuttle, he pulled out his notebook and wrote one last note. Observe, adapt, create. Humans always try. Machines can learn. So can life. He smiled, placing the notebook carefully on the shuttle's console. Even in this vast alien galaxy, he felt a connection, not just to the station, but to the life within it, the machines, and even the curious, watchful eyes of the aliens. He had left a mark, small but profound, simply by being human. The shuttle glided into the distance, and the alien station pulsed with the energy of its new life. Machines moved with a grace that reflected the creativity, patience, and ingenuity of a single human mechanic. The aliens would remember him and his methods forever. Somewhere, the leader whispered to the group, almost to itself. Humans are something extraordinary. Not for their strength, not for their speed, but for their mind, their persistence, and their ability to create change alone. And in that moment, the galaxy seemed just a little brighter, a little wiser, and a little more human. Jaren leaned back, smiled, and closed his eyes. One human, alone, had changed an entire alien station. One human, with intuition, patience, and creativity, had left a legacy that no species could ignore. And that was enough.